Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 1. Then Moses went out and spake these words to all Israel. I am now 120 years old, and I am no longer able to lead you. Wouldn't it be a blessing for us as leaders to know when it's time to pass the baton? The late Dr. Miles Monroe talked about dying with a baton in your hand. We should know and be humble enough to submit to the time when we should pass the baton to the next generation of leaders. The Lord your God himself will cross over ahead of you. And we're going to see in future chapters where the Ark of the Covenant passed over the Jordan before the children of Israel to lead them. He will destroy these nations before you, and you will take possession of their land. The Lord was going to go before them and destroy his enemies. They were his enemies first, and they're going to become the enemies of Israel. But all sinners and all that are at enmity, who hate the Lord, are his enemies. But they're in his land. Remember, we read that the eyes of the Lord watch over that land to care for it. And because of their abominations, the land is spewing them out. And Israel is going to go in and possess the land. Joshua also will cross over ahead of you, as the Lord said. And the Lord will do to them what he did to Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites, whom he destroyed along with their land. The Lord will deliver them to you, and you must do to them all that the Lord commanded you. Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. Watch this, y'all. He will never leave you nor forsake you. He will be with you always, he's saying, as Jesus told his disciples. I will be with you always. Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him, in the presence of all Israel, so they can hear, be strong and courageous. For you must go with this people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors to give them. Now, Moses knows he can't go, but he is being obedient and charging Joshua to take over and lead the way. Joshua is getting ready to succeed Moses. And you must divide it among them as their inheritance. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Don't be afraid. Do not be discouraged. So Moses wrote down this law and gave it to the Levitical priests who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and to all the elders of Israel. Then Moses commanded them at the end of 7 years, don't forget this, in the year for canceling debts, the years of Jubilee, during the festival of tabernacles, when all Israel comes to appear before the Lord, your God, at the place he will choose. You shall read this law before them in their hearing. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the foreigners residing in your towns. I'm in the NIV. so they can listen and learn to fear the Lord your God and follow carefully all the words of this law. So they are to read this law in the hearing of all of Israel. Their children who do not know this law must hear it and learn to fear or reverence the Lord your God as long as you live in the land you are crossing the Jordan to possess. Don't get over there and forget my law, because keeping my law is going to cause you to live long and be prosperous in the land. I already set before you blessings and cursings, life and death. Choose life. Choose to keep my law. After all of this, my brothers and sisters, after giving them the law on Sinai and at Moab from Exodus chapter 12 all the way to where we are now, after giving them this law and repeating it over and over and over and over again, my brothers and sisters, the Lord still has to predict their rebellion. They're going to go into the land and rebel anyway. They're going to worship other gods, break the covenant anyway. Deuteronomy, the second law. God has gone over the entire law again. He has even added new laws. He is trying to cause them to be successful. That's why he's taking all of this time, all of these books to give them the law, so that they may be blessed. He wants to bless them. He wants them to increase. He wants them to live long in the land. He promised it to their forefathers. Yet they still are going to break his covenant. The Lord said to Moses, "Now the day of your death is near. Call Joshua and present yourselves at the tent of meeting, where I will commission him." So Moses and Joshua came and presented themselves at the tent of meeting. We're talking about the tabernacle of the congregation, the tent of meeting. Then the Lord appeared at the tent in a pillar of a cloud, and the cloud stood over the entrance of the tent. And the Lord said to Moses, "You are going to rest with your ancestors, and these people will soon prostitute themselves to foreign gods, or to the foreign gods of the land that they are entering." Jesus. "They will forsake me and break the commandment I made with them. And in that day, I will become angry with them and forsake them. I will hide my face from them, and they will be destroyed. My disasters and calamities will come on them. And in that day, they will ask, have not these disasters come on us because our God is not with us? And I will certainly hide my face in that day because of their wickedness in turning to other gods." And we have seen that is what upsets God the most. He is a jealous God. He says in the Ten Commandments, "You should have no other gods before me." Now write down this song and teach it to the Israelites and have them sing it, so that it may be a witness for me against them. They're not going to have any excuse. They have the law. They have this song. So when I come to judge them, it'll be just judgment because they know better. They have been told over and over what my law is, what the blessings are for keeping it, what the cursings are for not keeping it. They are without excuse. When I have brought them into the land flowing with milk and honey, a prosperous land, the land I promised on oath, a promise, a pledge to their ancestors. And when they eat, they feel and thrive. Remember, he said, when you prosper in the land, don't forget the law, don't forget about me, but they're going to forget about him. They will turn to other gods and worship them, rejecting me and breaking my covenant. And when my disasters and calamities come on them, this song will testify against them. Like I told you. I told you what you were going to do, and I told you what I was going to do. Because it will not be forgotten by their descendants. I know what they are disposed to do. I know what they're going to do. I know what's in their hearts. Even before I bring them into the land I promised them on an oath. Before they even go into the land, I already know what they're going to do. I'm telling you now what they're going to do. So Moses wrote down this song that day and taught it to the Israelites. The Lord gave his command to Joshua, son of Nun, be strong and courageous, for you will bring the Israelites into the land I promised them on oath, and I myself will be with them. After Moses finished writing in a book the words of this law from the beginning to end, they have the whole law written down by Moses. They have the Ten Commandments written by the finger of God on tablets, but they also have a book of the law. He gave this command to the Levites who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord. Take this book of the law and place it beside the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God. There it will remain as a witness against you. This law is going to be a witness against you, that you agreed to keep it. And it's going to be there to remind you that it is my law. And it is before you. That you have no excuse. We can go to the book and show you where you have sinned and where you have promised to keep this law. It will be a witness against you, for I know how rebellious and stiff-necked people you are. I know it. That's why I have to give you this law. And I have to have it written, and I have to have it placed in the Ark of the Covenant, because I know you are a rebellious, stiff-necked people. But this law is going to be a witness against you. You know, when we disobey the law today, all the justice system has to do is show you in the law where it says you are not supposed to do this or that. It's a witness against you. And if you don't know the law, that's on you. So that's why he said that you need to read this law to them so that they know, so that they are without excuse. If you have been rebellious against the Lord while I am still alive and with you, Moses said, how much more will you rebel after I die? Assemble before me all the elders of your tribes and all your officials, so that I speak these words in their hearing and call the heavens and earth to testify against them. You know, pastors, believers, when we teach you the word of God, you are without excuse because you know it. You know better. And the word of God stands as a witness against you and testifies against you when you sin. We have the word that is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for instruction in righteousness, that we can be thoroughly furnished. We have no excuse. For I know after my death, you are sure to become utterly corrupt and to turn from the way I have commanded you. In days to come, the disaster will fall on you because you will do evil in the sight of the Lord and arouse his anger by what your hands have made. And Moses recited the words of this song from beginning to end in the hearing of the whole assembly of Israel. Chapter 32, this is the song, and we're not going to read all of it, but he begins saying, listen, you heavens, and I will speak. Hear you, earth, the words of my mouth. Let my teaching fall like rain, and my words descend like dew, like showers on new grass. Like abundant rain on tender plants, I will proclaim the name of the Lord. Oh, praise the greatness of our God. He is the rock. His works are perfect, and all his ways are just. A faithful God who does no wrong. Upright and just is he. They are corrupt and not his children. To their shame, they are a warped and crooked nation, or crooked generation. Is this the way you repay the Lord, you foolish and unwise people? Is he not your father, your creator, who made you and formed you? Remember the days of old, consider the generations long past. Ask your father, and he will tell you, your elders, and they will explain to you, when the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he divided all mankind. He set up boundaries for the peoples, according to the number of the sons of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob or Israel, his allotted inheritance. And so this song goes all the way through Deuteronomy chapter 32. Listen to what verse 38 says. They are a nation without sense. There is no discernment in them. But God made a covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The people weren't faithful to God, but God stood faithful to them. In Ecclesiastes, it talks about the faithfulness of God. Great is thy faithfulness. It is because of the Lord's mercy we are not consumed. It was because of his mercy that the children of Israel was not consumed. He is a covenant-keeping God. Verse 39, see now that I myself am he. There's no God beside me. I put to death and I bring to life. I have wounded and I will heal, and no one can deliver out of my hand. Verse 44, Moses came with Joshua, son of Nun, and spoke all the words of this song. So we know that a song in ancient time wasn't the singing to instrumental music as we know today, or even singing a cappella, but a song was an actual reading, a reciting of words. In the hearing of the people, when Moses finished reciting all these words to all Israel, he said to them, take to heart all the words I have solemnly declared to you this day, so that you may command your children to obey carefully all the words of this law. Notice he keeps going over this over and over and over again, that they must keep the law. This is how they're going to be blessed. This is how they're going to live long in the earth. This is how they're going to prosper, by keeping his words, his commands, his law. This is their covenant, their agreement. A covenant is an agreement between two or more parties. It's a covenant between God and Israel, that they would keep his laws and he would bless them. If they didn't, he would curse them. This is their agreement. And he's continuously telling them, choose life. Choose to keep my covenant. I want to bless you. I so want to bless you. If you follow this teaching, you will see he is doing everything he can to make sure that they go into this land and succeed. Do you all, as believers, see how God in your life has continuously been merciful to you? He wants to bless you. He wants you to keep his word, live holy, live righteous unto him so he can bless you, so you can be blessed, so you can be a blessing to others, that you may be saved, that you may enter into the kingdom of heaven when it comes in its fullness. He wants that for us. He doesn't desire that any of us perish. That's not the heart of God. They are not just idle words for you. They are your life. Do you see how important that is? Verse 47. Let me say that again. They are not just idle words for you. I'm in the NIV. They are your life. By them you will live long in the land you are crossing the Jordan to possess. Don't you understand that? On that same day, the Lord told Moses, go up into the Abiram range, to Mount Nebo in Moab, across from Jericho, and view Canaan, the land I'm giving the Israelites as their own possession. There on the mountain that you have climbed, you will die. Remember, Aaron died on Mount Hor. Moses is to die on Mount Nebo. There on the mountain that you have climbed, you will die and be gathered to your people, just as your brother Aaron died on Mount Hor and was gathered to his people. Why? Verse 51, this is because both of you broke faith with me in the presence of the Israelites at the waters of Meribah, Kadesh, in the desert of Zin, and because you did not uphold my holiness among the Israelites. So remember back when they were told that they would not enter into the land of Canaan after he struck the rock instead of speaking to it. I said back then that Aaron must have been in support of what he did, and he's going to be punished right along with him. But then we know that Aaron also made a molten calf as well. Therefore, you will see the land only from a distance. You will not enter the land I'm giving to the people of Israel. Have you ever had to look at something and grieve over not being able to have it because of your sin and disobedience? Has God ever just dangled something in front of you and said, you can't have it, you can't go there because of your disobedience? How that must have been for Moses to know he's going to go up into the mountain and die. He's led them all this way, y'all. He's dealt with their sins, their murmurs, their threatenings. Oh man, he had told God at one point, just take my life. I can't do it no more. How many times did he pray for them? How many times did he intercede for them? And you mean to tell me after just this one thing that you did is causing you not to go over into the land that was promised to you and your forefathers? Wow. Chapter 33. This is the blessing that Moses, the man of God, pronounced on the Israelites before his death. He said, the Lord came from Sinai and dawned over them from Seir. He shone forth from Mount Paran. He came with myriads of holy ones from the south, from his mountain slopes. Surely it is you who love the people. All the holy ones are in your hand. At your feet, they all bow down, and from you receive instruction. The law that Moses gave us, the possession of the assembly of Jacob. He was king over Jeshurun. This is a poetic name for Israel, Jeshurun. When the leaders of the people assembled along with the tribes of Israel. Let Reuben live and not die, nor his people be few. And this he said about Judah, hear, Lord, the cry of Judah, bring him to his people. With his own hands he defends his cause. Oh, he be help against his foes. About Levi, he said, your Thummim and Urim belong to your faithful servant. You tested him at Massa. You contended with him at the waters of Meribah. He said of his father and mother, I have no regard for them. He did not recognize his brothers or acknowledge his own children, but he watched over your word and guarded your covenant. He teaches your precepts to Jacob and your law to Israel. He offers incense before you and whole burnt offerings on your altar. Bless all his skills, Lord, and be pleased with the work of his hands. Strike down those who rise against him, his foes, till they rise no more. Talking about Levi, the Levitical priest. Levitical priesthood and the priest. About Benjamin, he said, let the beloved of the Lord rest secure in him, for he shields him all day long. And the one the Lord loves rests between his shoulders. And about Joseph, he said, may the Lord bless his land with the precious dew from heaven above and with the deep waters that lie below. With the best sun brings forth, with the best the sun brings forth, and the finest the moon can yield. With the choicest gifts of the ancient mountains and the first fullness and the fruitfulness, and the fruitfulness of the everlasting hills. With the best gifts of the earth and its fullness, and the favor of him who dwelt in the burning bush. Let all these rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the prince among his brothers. In majesty he is like a firstborn bull. His horns are the horns of a wild ox. With them he will gore the nations, even those at the ends of the earth. Such are the 10,000s of Ephraim. Such are the thousands of Manasseh. And so he speaks blessings over the 12 tribes. And then we come to chapter 34, and this is the death of Moses. A sad time, y'all. This was a strong brother who was called in Egypt to bring God's people out of Egypt. Just look at his story and how his mother gave him over to the Egyptians to be raised in all the wisdom of Egypt. And he became a deliverer. God delivered the children of Israel by a mighty hand through the leading of Moses. Then Moses climbed Mount Nebo from the plains of Moab to the top of Pisgah, crossed from Jericho. There the Lord showed him the whole land, from Gilead to Dan, all Naphtali, the territory of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev, and the whole region of the valley of Jericho, the city of palms as far as Zoar. Then the Lord said to him, this is the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob when I said I would give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you will not cross over into it. And Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in Moab. As the Lord has said, he buried him in Moab, in the valley opposite Beth Peor, but to this day no one knows where his grave is. And so here the Lord buried Moses and not the people. Why? We don't know. Moses was special. He was the prophet of God. There's no other prophet like Moses, whom God spoke to him face to face as a man speaks to his friend. Moses was 120 years old when he died. Yet his eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. He died a strong man. The Israelites grieved for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days until the time of weeping and mourning was over. Now Joshua, son of Nun, was filled with the spirit of wisdom because Moses has laid his hands on him. So we see back in the ancient time, they laid hands and transferred power and spirit. So the Israelites listened to him and did what the Lord had commanded Moses. Since then, no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. He had a personal relationship with him. He didn't speak through anybody else. He spoke directly to him. But now we see that the Lord speaks to the priest, and the priest consults the leaders, the high priest. Joshua speaks to the high priest now. God will not speak directly through him in matters. Who did all these signs and wonders, and then also through the prophets we'll see too. Who did all these signs and wonders the Lord sent him to do in Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all the officials and to his whole land. For no one has ever shown the mighty power, performed the awesome deeds that Moses did in the sight of all Israel. Somebody say, only those who have been following the teaching. Let me tell you all something. Studying from Exodus chapter 12 through Deuteronomy, now studying it again. This is my second time going through the Bible, the first time teaching through it. Studying the law has been the hardest studies for me. It's a lot to understand, a lot to remember. The rest of the Bible is mostly stories and history, which I enjoy reading the stories. But the law, in that it's repeated over and over again as well. All of the offerings, all of the laws concerning civil and criminal justice, the laws of honesty, the laws of, there's so many laws. Just to study them is a burden. Can you imagine those who had to keep all of those laws and remember them and know that if you didn't keep many of them as prescribed, that death would follow? It's been a journey through the Torah. We are finished with the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. What a study. This is not for the weak. We're going to go into Joshua, the first 5 chapters of Joshua, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And we're going to witness them cross the Jordan River with the Ark of the Covenant leading, and the priest standing in the midst of the Jordan as God causes the water to be stayed, that they cross over onto dry land, and set up 12 stones to remember how God not only delivered them through the Red Sea, but delivered them through the Jordan onto dry land to go into the land that was promised to them. It's powerful, y'all. It's powerful. I hope you're enjoying this teaching. Again, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., we will be going through Joshua chapters 1 through 5. I'll see you tomorrow morning.